Hi, Katrina Martinez here with NTAC Network. I'm an elementary school development coach and have been with the network in this position for 1 year. I'm excited to be here at NTAC, but even equally excited to be talking about rubrics with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm Jody Posadas. I'm an elementary school development coach, and I have been with the network for about 3 years. And we're just so excited that you're here at NTAC joining us. And we wanted to make a video about rubrics because in the past at NTN 101, we don't usually get to talk about rubrics. We don't have enough time in these 3 days, 4 days to get to that point. So we wanted to make a short video to help you out. Hopefully this is going to be incredibly useful to you in your time. So feel free to watch the whole video, watch a part of the video and pause it and get some rubric creation started, and then come back to the video, whatever makes the most sense to you as you make sense of rubrics for you and your students.
So with this video, we're going to focus on how to complete the Plan the Assessment benchmark. You might recognize that as step 4 of the project planning toolkit, right after the project phases. When we plan our assessments, our goal is to create rubrics that allow for teachers and students to reflect and assess on student learning. The opportunity there is that we really want to concentrate on the process rather than the product for students as well as yourself. So in reference to assessment, we want to consider that rubrics allow us to assess what, which is our content standards or our skills that we've built into the project, who is doing the assessing. There's peer, self, teacher, and experts can also be part of the assessment process, and how they're being assessed. That really can look a variety of ways, whether it's a presentation in front of others for practicing oral presentation skills, or it can also be a good old-fashioned multiple choice quiz that you might have them complete. Essentially, the goal of rubrics is to help them and yourself goal set to continue working through the project and continue working with your students so that they're progressing in the skills and knowledge development. Rubrics are also a really good way for students to learn language around developing a culture of kind, specific, and helpful feedback, and allows that culture to flourish in your classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever I think back to when I first started designing rubrics, right at the beginning of me doing PBL, before becoming a NTAC facilitator, I thought about rubrics similar to this, as a checklist of things to include within a product. So I'm going to give you some time just to read through this. So while something like this might be a helpful checklist or might be really useful, we want to be sure that our rubrics are allowing us to determine if students mastered the standards and outcomes that we chose earlier in the begin with the end in mind piece of the project map. So this is not the greatest example of a rubric. This is more of a checklist that you could also include in a project, but you want to move away from this as a rubric. So as we move away from this as a rubric, you do want to consider how does a rubric push students in their thinking to go deeper within a project, and also thinking about how vital it is that students are afforded multiple opportunities for reflection, revision, and feedback through the project rubric. There should be evidence of growth as they go from emerging, developing, proficient into an advanced indicator, that they can really see that progression of learning and growth that happens for them. So we're going to encourage you to focus less on the superficial work descriptors, like the number of something a product needs to include, and focus more on the descriptions of quality. So this example shows how to create a rubric that will allow you to assess student mastery. So you'll notice at the top, those are the standards included in the Play It Safe project. Give you some time to read those. All right, so what we've done is taken those 2 project standards that are included in the content area of the begin with the end in mind portion, and we've combined those into the proficient descriptor that you'll notice with the arrow pointing to it. So test different materials and makes a claim for which has properties suited for an intended purpose. So from there, that helps you get the proficient descriptor for your kiddos. Then you need to think about what advanced mastery looks like and what it looks like when students are beginning or trying to start this project. So you can include things like when appropriate, or even with help or with support in some of those developing and emerging descriptors. Many times when we shift from proficient to emerging and developing, we think about those words, even words like sometimes instead of not, just so that they feel positive about the way that they're progressing in their journey.
Yeah, and at times, sometimes, Jody, I've even done this when I'm in design mode, is changing the verb sometimes that we see at the start of that content standard. But along with everything that Jody has just mentioned, we then get into kind of the tricky situation of grading using rubrics. And we get quite a bit of questions around that. Sometimes we try to give the good rule of thumb of maybe the teacher understands the grading system just a little bit sooner than the students do, so that the students primarily at first see the rubric as an opportunity to goal set. And maybe the grades get brought in a little later. A lot of the times, proficient should be considered what students might have the opportunity all to reach. Because when we get into that advanced column, it's kind of a tricky situation with knowing whether all students are able to achieve at the advanced status. So determining 90 to 100 for that point scale for advanced, you might want to consider what skill sets your students will all be able to achieve. Also thinking about letter or numeric grades, you'll also need to think about what kind of scoring goes into each of those columns. And this can also be an opportunity for you to differentiate for other students, depending on their skill needs. So one student might be able to hit the proficient level and get a B, when another student you might consider the developing level would be a B for that student, depending on their needs. Essentially, excuse me, essentially we want the grade or the percentage to really support the student in establishing a goal that would allow them to increase that grade and that skill. It's also a little easier with the outcome rubrics because we already have those developed for you. So as you'll see, this is taken directly from our rubrics resources. This is the delivery section of the oral communication rubric for grade 5, I believe. This rubric has indicators that you can specifically copy and paste and borrow from those and put into a student-facing rubric. You'll notice that we've done that here. So oral communication, you can find those down at the bottom. We have the domains of evidence as well as presentation skills that we've borrowed directly from the NTAC network. Rubrics that are already created specifically for oral communication, and we've put that into a student-facing rubric. You also want to think about how you would assign grades for those as well. Sometimes when we're more advanced in our rubric development, we can go into talking about groups versus individual grading when it comes to those skills. It's also important for students to be able to self-assess their mastery of standards and outcomes. So depending on the grade level of your students, the same rubric that you use for teacher-facing might be the same one that students are able to use for student-facing. However, you also can consider that you've done a lot of the work already in project design for student-facing rubrics with the learning targets that you've created. So those learning targets over on the right-hand side that you find in step 1 of the project toolkit, you've already done most of that work in creating student-friendly language for them to goal set around and to target in the process. So as indicated in the previous slide, those learning targets where you've created that student-friendly language, you can actually just steal and borrow from those from step 1 and put them into step 4 when we're considering the reflection opportunities for students and the knowledge and skills and outcomes that they'll be trying to achieve and accomplish. So you can put those I can statements directly over into that proficient descriptor column that then will allow for them to have a midpoint reflection and a final reflection. We also know that this was developed with a 5th grade outcome rubric in mind. And so if you want to get something more student-friendly for 2nd grade, such as Play It Safe that we've kind of built this off of, you can use student-facing rubrics with visuals, such as the next one there. So this student-facing rubric with visuals has opportunities for students to look at a sad face, neutral face, and happy face to indicate their status. That also allows you to have some observational data on their reflection opportunities. This is also still the type of process you would use for students who are doing peer assessing, teacher assessing, or expert assessing. You would want them to use kind of that same indication of happy faces there. There's also one final example that we have for you. We have used this from our friends at the Buck Institute for Education. This is a presentation rubric for K2 that they've built out, and you can see that the I can statements are directly stated there with kind of some friendly language and faces that support what level that they're on, kind of similar to proficient, developing, and advanced.
So we really hope that this video helped you to design your rubrics for your project you're working on here at NTAC, and that it's going to really support you in assessing mastery of your students through a progression in the process of the project. Be sure to let us know by using your colorful cards if you need support from us. Raise your hand if you have any questions. And if you're just looking for additional resources, there are some additional ECHO pieces around rubrics, as well as if you visit our website, newtechnetwork.org, you'll be able to find all of the learning outcome rubrics for 2nd and 5th grade. Hope you're having a great experience.
Thank you.